Yo, yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Bettor's Almanac podcast. We are now in week 15 of the NFL season, absolutely flying by. And this is now episode 11 of the Bettor's Almanac podcast. We are back, myself, Matt Quallis from Sports Memo and Wager Talk, and my good friend and partner, Eric Pauly, and we absolutely dominated the slate last week. Eric, how's it going, my man?
Dude, it was a big week. Very low on volume for myself, just a 3-in-1 week. Two of those plays actually came on Monday night, so unfortunately weren't on the show, but I was on the Patriots minus the 1.5, Ramondre Stevenson prop under. But not only did our plays for ourselves kill it, I went 3-0. Matt, you went 6-0 yesterday. Talk about the picks on the podcast last week, hitting both of our live underdogs, hitting also those teasers extended that we had with those bets. Only missed one bet on the show, which is my Jefferson anytime because I got too cute. I should have stuck with the yards. I saw the 94.
He should have scored too.
Dude, that one play when they claimed he stepped out of bounds on the sideline, they just shut it down right away when he scored. I'm not so sure he stepped out of bounds. Why shut that down? Let him get to the end zone, do the review the backwards way like they normally do. But great week for us on the pod. A great week for me betting the 3-in-1 week. That one loss being against Jefferson. Hit that teaser, Patriots and Stevenson under. But you went 6-0, brother. What were you on last week?
Yeah, I mean, last week was just another great week. My number one play was the Baltimore Ravens, and that absolutely smashed. Even in my write-up when I was talking about that, I said this is a +3 line, makes zero sense to me. I don't see the drop-off, and we talked about it between Tyler Huntley and Lamar Jackson. I actually said I'd play this at -1.5, so it made me look pretty good that the Ravens ended up winning by 2. And then I also had the Chargers. That was actually my $2 Tuesday play over at Sports Memo and Wager Talk. Absolutely smashed. That's why I couldn't give it out on the podcast. The only time we really can't give out picks on the podcast is if it's like a $2 Tuesday play or one of the big time plays for Wager Talk and Sports Memo. So I had that over there. Absolutely smashed. Chargers won that one outright like I thought they would. And yeah, just looking to keep this rolling this week in week 15 now. Yeah,
week 15, bro. It's so sad. Only 4 more weeks of regular season football. Obviously, week 18, they'll have some teams playing for something, some teams resting their stars, and other teams literally twiddling their thumbs and putting some crappy ass players out there and trying to keep everybody safe for next year. But Matt, we killed our live dogs last week. We have a couple of live dogs this week. First and foremost, starting with tonight, Thursday night football. You like the Seattle Seahawks to win outright, and I can't say that I don't agree with you right here. Niners, Seahawks, Seattle on the money line. Talk to me, Matt. Where's your head at in this one?
Yeah, so guys, real quick before we get into the dog of the day, we got to shout out our proud sponsor in PointsBet Sportsbook, because last week PointsBet Sportsbook gave out $200 free bets. Going to announce those winners right now because we have some new winners actually, or some names we haven't seen in a while, and that is Brian Dean and Eric Mowry. So congratulations on that. You guys are the $100 free bet winners from PointsBet Sportsbook. Please reach out to the Bettor's Almanac Twitter, myself on Twitter, or Eric on Twitter, and we will get those bets to you. Okay, you just got to forward me your account information, forward to PointsBet, and we get you those free bets. All right. Now, right now with PointsBet Sportsbook, it is time to get your swagger back. New customers can sign up using the code Almanac to get 5 second chance free bets of up to $500. That's 5 straight days of second chances where PointsBet Sportsbook will match your losing wager in free bets. So use promo code Almanac and enjoy more live betting markets than ever before. PointsBet, your move. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-270-7117. And this week we are giving away one $200 free bet to a lucky listener of the Bettor's Almanac podcast. Same thing as always. You need to place a same game parlay for essentially any game on this NFL slate. It has to be for at least $20, or place a live bet on PointsBet Sportsbook of at least $20. Take that bet, post it under our tweet on the Bettor's Almanac podcast, and you are entered.
Easy as that. Pretty simple. Congratulations to those winners from last week. Shout out to PointsBet Sportsbook for making this all possible. And we got a big boy this week, a $200 free bet, and obviously NFL season winding down. So
right around Christmas, I mean, some people could use that thing.
yeah, you could use that in a variety of ways. You could hit a nice live dog of the day. You could hit a nice future. You could hit a future still. Some of those markets are unsettled, and turn that into a big payday. So best of luck to everybody. Congrats again. But talk to me, Matt. Seattle plus 145 right now on the spread. They actually have dropped to plus 3. Not many 3.5s around out there anymore. And this, again, makes sense to both of us as we both like Seattle to win outright. Or shouldn't say we think that they're necessarily going to win, as in like they're our best bet, runs to the table and takes Seattle outright. But we think they're certainly live in this game. I want to hear from you first, Matt. Talk to me about Seattle.
Yeah, for one, when you look over this slate and you kind of look at all the underdogs, for me personally, this is one of those weeks where I didn't see many, and for me, the one that stuck out was the Seattle Seahawks. They lost at home last week to the Carolina Panthers and now have the San Francisco 49ers traveling on the road to face off against them in Seattle. And as you guys know, this is a 49ers team that I've absolutely been raving about all season long. I love this team, and you generally want to take the team with the better defense. But it's just one of those situational spots, once again, like we talked about. This is a San Francisco 49ers team that has now won 6 games in a row, 4 of those games being at home. And this is a team that plays far better at home. They're 7-5 against the spread at home. And on the road, they're actually 2-3 against the spread. And they've actually lost outright to teams like the Denver Broncos. I know they've had some other bad losses as well. The Atlanta Falcons. Trying to think of that third one. Can't think of it off the top of my head right now. But again, a team that is just far better at home, not playing that well on the road. And then Seattle is one of those spots that is a very tough place to go and play. They talk about the 12th man, things of that nature. And this is also a San Francisco 49ers team that lost their leader in Jimmy Garoppolo. Last week, they also had Deebo Samuel go down. So for someone like Brock Purdy, who, he's looked great. He's looked great as a rookie, but, he was the last pick in the draft for a reason, Mr. Irrelevant. And now, again, this is someone who he was very blessed to come into a certain situation. He was able to come fill in San Francisco, have that great defense behind him. Now it's a little different. Now you have to travel to Seattle, a hostile environment, a team that is 7-6, desperately needing this win to stay, keep their playoff positioning. The Detroit Lions, as we know, right behind me, are starting to come up on their tail. So this is a very big game for the Seattle Seahawks team. And again, a rookie quarterback coming into a situation like this, a very hostile crowd, his top weapon in Deebo Samuel going down. So I think this is just one of those situations. If you're the Seattle Seahawks, it can be very one-dimensional, for this 49ers team. They know that they have to center in on that run game. If you're the Seahawks, you have to make Brock Purdy beat you. And here's the thing. The Seattle Seahawks have been playing terrible against the run. Just terrible against the run. But with that being said, I do think you can come in and stack the box. I do think there are situational matchups that may, it's like someone lit a fire under your ass and you just naturally play harder. The defense naturally plays better. And then also, again, back to my point earlier, this is a San Francisco 49ers team that plays significantly worse on the road. Even rushing yards given up per game. The San Francisco 49ers at home average 60 rushing yards given up per game. On the road, they average 90 rushing yards per game. 30 yards is a lot, and that really does show the differentiation between home and away. And it just popped in my head. The San Francisco 49ers also lost to the Bears week 1. That's what it was. So this is a team that has lost to the Broncos, Bears, Falcons on the road, all teams with losing records. Okay, so this is one of those teams that is very capable of going on the road and losing. Geno Smith had one of his worst games of the season last week against the Carolina Panthers. I think he's very capable of having an efficient game, bouncing back. But someone that I'm really looking to tonight is actually Kenneth Walker III. I think Kenneth Walker III is essential for the Seattle Seahawks team. He is the power in between the tackles. He's that guy who can break a couple tackles and make a huge play out of it. He's like a spark plug. The Seattle crowd feeds off him as well. So for me, I really am liking the look of the Seattle Seahawks team. And to your point, Eric, if you can, grab this 3.5. You want that hook, especially if this is a field goal game, and because leading up until kickoff, it could be all threes, and then you're just stuck with that 3. And if it lands on that 3, you push. You don't want that. So again, this is the dog of the day. I definitely see Seattle having a very good chance of winning this game outright. But, San Francisco. So you do want that half point just in case. But again, Seattle dog of the day, baby.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with what you're saying, where it's kind of like Seattle has that fire lit under their ass. They need a victory tonight to really be in good standing in the postseason. Now, it is not at the make and break point for any NFL team besides some of the teams that are on the outside looking in, but like games will go into later, Giants, Commanders, right? Like, obviously, one of those teams has to lose that football game, but it's not the end of the season necessarily tonight, but it's getting close. So it's a must-win game. But it's also just, for me, a matchup here. So first of all, Brock Purdy, questionable to play tonight, right? He has been hurt all week with an oblique injury that he suffered last week. So he's not in full health. Josh Johnson will be a go if Purdy is, for whatever reason, unable to play in this matchup. But something that I've also noticed is in a division like the NFC West, right? Like all divisions in the NFL, when playing interdivision games, have like these kind of quirks. And one of the quirks is that Pete Carroll has kind of had Kyle Shanahan's number since Shanahan's become the coach of the 49ers. Since 2018, Seattle is 6-3 straight up against the 49ers. And yes, some of that time was with Russell Wilson. Yes, that loss in the beginning of the season this year where Seattle only scored points on a blocked field goal in a rain and wind game in San Francisco, where the Niners, again, their defense pitched a shutout. The only points for Seattle came on that field goal return for a touchdown. But I don't think that this is going to be the same kind of matchup. For starters, that was week 2 when the 49ers were healthy across the board. This week, the Niners are going to be missing Eric Armstead. They're going to be missing a ton of depth pieces in their secondary. Of course, Deebo Samuel will not suit up for this matchup. So there are actually a couple of props that you and I both like in this game, and we'll get to that a little bit later when we do our prop segment. But it's very hard to – you can't just count out they're certainly not laying 3.5 with San Francisco. That is honestly a sucker bet. Do not lay the 3.5 with San Francisco. If you like them, make sure you get a 3. On the other end of the spectrum, if you like Seattle and you're not sprinkling the money line, or take the 3.5 and sprinkle the money line, but getting the points here is paramount. You of course have that key number of 3 captured if you're taking Seattle, but I expect this to certainly be a close game. And the spread itself being 3.5 all week, now creeping down to 3. That kind of tells the story. I'll be very surprised if the San Francisco 49ers come out and kind of just put a beating on Seattle tonight.
I'd be shocked.
I'd be shocked. Honestly shocked. I really think it's going to be a good one. So, yeah. No, but very interesting matchup. It should be a good one. I mean, like Thursday night games have been duds. Yeah, Thursday nights have kind of been duds this year. And this is a matchup where we should be in for a good time.
And then even in addition, it's a divisional rivalry. Anytime I see a 3.5 in a divisional rivalry, almost like no joke, I'll just throw all the other shit out the window. I'm like, dude, this is a divisional matchup, rivalry. Like anytime those situations arise, like you put your best foot forward. You generally come to play. You open up the playbook a little more. You might see some trick plays from the Seattle Seahawks tonight as well. So it's just one of those games where you might see that much more because the game is just that much. It's just that needed for the Seahawks, to keep their playoff positioning, to try and make that run and get into the postseason. This is a game they need. And if not, Detroit very well could be coming. So I do expect Seattle to put their best foot forward tonight. And it's honestly a game I'm very much looking forward to for Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, as am I. Should really definitely be a great one. It's going to be a close game in Seattle.
Amazon Prime. I'm sick of that shit. My God. I can't do it. I hate every time I have to pull up Amazon Prime. I click Hulu every time. I'm like, where's the game? And I'm like, oh my God, I got to go to Amazon for this nonsense. So yeah, it's pretty funny. But whatever.
I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. I'm hoping.
Me either. Yeah.
I'm hoping Bezos buys my Washington Commanders, and this is part of like the entry point to the deal. They were like, hey, Goodell was like, hey, Jeff, we'll give you Thursday night. We're gonna give you crappy games in year 1, but year 2, you buy the Commanders. We'll give you any game you want for the 2023 season. But another game, speaking of the Commanders, I obviously am a fan of the Washington Commanders, but I really love the Giants as a live underdog this week. I currently have 1 teaser locked in, and we'll talk about it in the teaser options section because the Giants at +4.5, teasing them up to +10.5 is not an advantage teaser based on the math and like the Stanford Wong teasers. However, I did that last week with Jacksonville. Obviously, it worked out. Again, maybe it can happen in the short term and get some wins. In the long run, it has been a losing strategy. However, I think that 10.5 points are way too many for the Giants. I think 4.5 are too many points for the Giants. And I really think that this New York Giants team can win this football game outright. Obviously, these two teams played 2 weeks ago and tied. The Giants have had one of the worst 6-week stretches of really any team in the National Football League. They've been absolutely getting destroyed by weak opponents, and the only team that they beat was the Texans in a game where the Giants were literally handing the Texans the football game saying win, and they refused to take that and win because we all know how bad Houston is. But I think all of that, similar to tonight's game, is thrown out of the window. Playoffs are on the line here. Whoever wins this game, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I saw it this morning, it increases the playoff chances to like 75% if you win, and then if you lose, down to like 35% if you lose. So there's definitely a lot riding on that matchup. And I know Washington is more talented across the board, but Daniel Jones always does well against the Commanders. We are rested because we had the bye week last week, but I think that actually might not be the best thing for the Commanders because they were rolling so hot that now they're kind of on this mini vacation. I even looked at the injury report for practice on Wednesday, and there were a lot of players who were limited or did not participate in practice on Wednesday. They didn't even know were injured 2 weeks ago. So I could see the psyche of this Commanders team not being where it needs to be. Ron Rivera, I don't think, is a great head coach, but he's a great leader of men. So I do have some faith that he could get the troops riled up. But at the same time, the Giants know the impact of this game. And while New York has been a fraud team all season long, I don't know how they don't put up a fight in the matchup this weekend, Sunday night.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there. This is a play that has not made my official card just yet, but it very well could. The only reason it hasn't is just probably because it's Sunday night, and I've been looking at all the 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock games first. And, one statistic that even stuck out to me was, this New York Giants team hasn't been playing incredible, but when coming off a loss, this is actually a team that is 5-0 against the spread in bounce back situations. So a team that's very good at, just playing hard football, scrappy, and keeping a game close. And neither one of these teams exactly blow people out. You know what I mean? Again, another divisional rivalry, divisional matchup. 4.5 points is a good amount of points too. You know what I mean? And like you said, this Commanders team is definitely the more talented of the teams, but we all know how Daniel Jones is sometimes too. He can pick up first downs with his legs. He can extend plays, and it could very well be one of those matchups where he just makes just enough plays to get the Giants over the edge or to at least cover this spread.
100%. And with Heineke on the other end, a turnover waiting to happen. He's due for literally one a game. He's due for like 3 turnover-worthy plays a game. So if all 3 of those become turnovers, Washington's screwed, right?
Yep.
This New York Giants defense shores up in the red zone big time. Washington's going to settle for field goals. That's what happened in the first game, and they tied. Now, a lot of people were saying after that first matchup that it looked like the Giants should have ran away with that game, but no, the opposite was true. Washington had that game in their grasp, and they let New York get back into it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I felt like it was opposite.
Yeah. So I think the onus is really on the Commanders, and I don't know how well this team is going to play under tremendous amounts of pressure. Of course, we don't know if Chase Young is going to suit up. He's still being cryptic about that. Benjamin St. Juste, their cornerback, he hopefully is back for them because they were very deficient at their second CB spot without him. And again, you got guys like Montez Sweat, who was on the injury report with a concussion on Wednesday. Like, I didn't even know Montez Sweat had a concussion.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of factors in this game that I think actually point to the New York Giants winning. And I hate to say that, but again, I love betting with my head and not my heart. So
yeah.
Let's take a look at some teaser options for the week. One that I mentioned, again, I took this as actually a 4% play, biggest of the season so far. I'm on the Buffalo Bills -1.5, teased with the New York Giants +10.5. My handicap for Buffalo is plain and simple, right? So Tua Tagovailoa is a good quarterback at throwing the ball short and letting his receivers run. When the ball needs to get thrown down the field, Tua Tagovailoa is not a great NFL quarterback by any stretch of the imagination. And now he's going to have to go into Buffalo, which is the 3rd straight road game this Miami Dolphins team has played, coming back from Los Angeles last week on Sunday night on a short week, nevertheless, because this game is on Saturday night, playing in Buffalo at Highmark Stadium. The winds are supposed to be bad. There's supposed to be some snow. We'll, of course, monitor that weather report. But the way, again, I'm viewing this game is I'm waiting all day long. I'll be hanging out on Saturday, and I'll be looking at the weather reports. I actually have a friend in Buffalo. He'll give me some live updates. And if the wind and the snow are coming down and it looks bad, I expect this number for Buffalo to grow, and that just means more teaser exposure for me. I'll be continuously teasing Buffalo down with some of these other options, like one game that I really want to hear your take on that too. The Pittsburgh Steelers plus 8.5 or plus 9 against the Carolina Panthers, I think, are a great teaser leg. We're talking about Coach Steve Wilkes, who's interim head coach for the Panthers, who's done a good job going against the Steelers team, who Mike Tomlin, of course, one of the better coaches. But yeah, they lost to Baltimore last week. But besides those 3 interceptions by Mitch Trubisky, which obviously you can't just throw him by the wayside, but he played really well, right? Pickett's probably out of this game with a concussion. I think Trubisky is still they're like neck and neck in terms of like EPA and like who's actually better. Like no one is like, cemented themselves as better than the other. But I really think getting Pittsburgh with the points here and even maybe plus the regular 3 and outright is a look this week, Matt. What are you thinking there?
Yeah, and to start with the Buffalo one, like that's one game that I absolutely love as well. I don't know if I'm willing to, like, in it for a teaser option, or me, I run some alt line parlays and a little different, but it's just one of those spots where, like you said, so the Miami Dolphins traveled to the West Coast 2 weeks in a row. So 2 nice, cozy, warm weather games. Lost both games, though. San Francisco 49ers got beat down, and then they got beat pretty good by the Chargers as well. Now they travel back to Miami, and now they're shooting up to Buffalo. That is not an easy travel route, in 3 weeks in a row. And then on top of that, dude, Miami loves the warm weather. And I like read somewhere, I don't know if it was like a tweet or an article or something along those lines, that Miami had heaters on their sideline, like on the West Coast or something like that. So think about going to Buffalo now. And then we've all been watching, we watched Tua last week, and that arm just did not look good. You know what I mean? He's a very accurate quarterback, but there's not a ton of zip. He doesn't exactly have that strength to cut through the wind with that just perfect spiral going right through it. That's not really his game. No. So going to Buffalo, this is a Miami team that just is not made for those conditions. They don't run the football well. They don't have a quarterback with an incredibly strong arm. And on the other side, you have someone like Josh Allen, who you can always use that power run. Devin Singletary's been running pretty well. You got someone like James Cook as well. So I just think this Buffalo team I don't think Buffalo's exactly made for the elements, but they are way more than this Miami team. So I don't see any way this Buffalo team loses. If they did, I would be absolutely shocked. And with the Pittsburgh and Carolina game, these are just 2 teams on top of that where, yes, the Carolina Panthers did win by, I believe, 10 points against the Seahawks last week, or was that what it was, 10 points?
Yeah, it was something like that because they had that late field goal.
True. They had that late field goal. But that's got to be the only game the entire season this Carolina team has beaten anyone by double digits. And this is also a Pittsburgh Steelers team that has been playing far better defense. And one thing that's crazy about the Steelers is when TJ Watt is in that lineup, I believe they're like 4 points closer to every single opponent per game. So there's literally like a 4-point swing with TJ Watt being in or out of the game. He's just that good of a player, and he's that good of a difference maker. You know what I mean? And again, when he's someone who's coming off the edge, I think he can be a big factor in this matchup. Sam Darnold is someone who's generally good for at least 1 interception per game on top of that. So, and then you would assume that Pittsburgh could go down, capitalize. So, 8.5 points. This is one where I just can't see it getting out of hand. You know what I mean? Neither team really has that type of firepower where they can separate, and both teams have solid defenses to keep this one relatively close. So, I would definitely be on that Pittsburgh side as well.
Yeah, and back to Buffalo, Miami. Last point I'm going to make here is Miami beat Buffalo in Miami week 3.
Mm-hmm.
The Buffalo Bills outgained the Miami Dolphins 497 yards to 212. Mm-hmm. Buffalo had 4 fumbles, only 1 loss, so they had that 1 turnover in the game. They were 7 for 52 on penalty yards. They held the ball for 40 minutes and 40 seconds in that game. The revenge factor is there. The fact that Buffalo actually ruined them and only lost by 2 points also is a big factor in that matchup. So I really, again, the 7, it's 2 playoff teams. I don't know if I really want to lay the 7, but you're telling me I get Buffalo to win a football game Yes, Miami's good, but the elements stacked for Miami. But
Yeah.
moving on to the next two on this one. These two, less of, I guess, an in-depth analysis for me. Arizona plus 8.5. Of course, Kyler Murray, unfortunately, tore the ACL. He's out for the season. Russell Wilson had that big concussion. He took a huge hit that was very publicized. So I don't know if he's going to suit up in this game. I think right now this price is setting with Brett Rippon versus Colt McCoy. And the way that I view this game, 2.5 points, especially in any game, right? If you can get a 3 at a good number, of course, get a 3 if possible. But taking 8.5, this is a game where it's like Denver going to win a game by 8.5 points. Like, really? Like, I know it's at Mile High.
Yeah.
Nothing to play for. Vance Joseph, the DC for the Cardinals, was the coach of the Broncos for 2 years. So there could be that motivation factor for his guys who like him, who want to play for him and shut down this Broncos offense. I just can't lay points with Denver. Taking 8.5 with Arizona, I know they suck. It just seems like a safer side to me and something I'm considering. And last but not least, and again, the order that we see it on the screen, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Arizona, Green Bay, is my order of confidence. And I actually have the Giants first in that, plus a 10.5. So the Green Bay Packers, you're just asking them to win a football game against a shitty Rams team. Baker Mayfield trying to play in Green Bay. I know he had that great drive. It was awesome. But yes, this line has also come down from 8 to now 6.5. Some shops 7. But I would just tease Green Bay and say to win. I don't know the other way to bet that Rams Packers Monday night game.
No, I love your teasers. Every time you put them up here, I think they look so good. I'm like, how the fuck doesn't this hit? So you know what I mean. I'm always with you, and I think Green Bay goes out and wins this game. Arizona plus 8.5. You know, Colt McCoy will be starting, and he's actually someone. Me and you've discussed this. I actually feel more comfortable with him sometimes, just because I actually do believe he's a better passer. I believe that he actually goes through his progressions far better. He's okay just checking it down, taking the 3 yards, moving on to the next play. You know what I mean? And then last week, we actually saw James Conner play all right. You know, he's been someone I've actually been ragging on a lot this season. I felt like he had like cinder blocks attached to his legs when he was running at times.
Like Najee Harris now.
Yeah, literally. Like I would like watch this guy and be like, dude, is he in quicksand right now? Like he cannot move his feet. He's slow as dirt. But last week, I actually felt like he had a little burst. Maybe he was hurt. Maybe he was just, I don't know. But I felt like he did look better last week. So, yeah, I mean, anytime you're getting 8.5s in those type of games where, you know, the opponents, there's not much differentiation there. And both have solid defenses and just don't see much separation. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm totally with you there. And the Baker Magic, you know, that was nice. Good for him. The poor guy has been through a lot. You know, in all honesty, it's got to be tough being like the number one pick, that guy that everything is around, and you're just basically a bust for the most part. You know what I mean? So
you spent more time in the film room and less time on the set filming the Progressive commercials.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. I think we all got a little. I think we all got a little tired of seeing Baker every 2 seconds on. Like it'd be like one commercial, and then you'd see like Taco Bell, and then it'd be Baker again, and then it'd be like Bud Light, then it'd be Baker again. It's just like, oh my god.
Let's just hope he kept some of that money, because I don't know if he's going to be making a lot of money in the NFL for the rest of his career. Definitely a backup quarterback worthy player, but he is definitely not the guy.
Yeah, I agree. Good for him, man. He needed it. You know, he probably needed that.
He's got his Heisman. He's got his checks. You know, I think he'll be all right.
He's got to chill out the helmet headbutts, though. What the heck is that?
I don't know, man. He was fired up. Moving on to a big game. I know Matt brought a huge Detroit audience to the show, and we have been backing the hell out of the Lions. And right now, I think the Detroit Lions are at a great sell high opportunity. I love the New York Jets this weekend. I am waiting, and we discussed this before the show. I'm waiting on the Quinnen Williams news, and not just because he's not playing, I'm not going to take this bet. I'm taking the Jets no matter what. I would just maybe right now the best line I see is at our partner points bet minus 107. If it goes to minus 115 or it goes to even in that range, I'm still taking this game. So I love the Jets in this matchup this weekend. Matt, I know you've been all over Detroit, but you're liking the Jets too. Talk to me why you're kind of looking toward the Jets as well this weekend.
You know, for me, it's just one of those situational spots. Once again, you know, Detroit has been running incredibly high. You know, we've been on the Lions, I believe, 5 weeks in a row. And honestly, I've enjoyed every single spot. But at the same time, you know, you look at this Lions team, and 3 games in a row were indoors. We did go and beat the Giants, but the Giants were kind of one of those free falling teams. That was an outdoor stadium. And then same with the Bears. We went out and beat the Bears, outdoor stadium. Neither team has a great defense. Neither team was, on that great of a run or anything along those lines. The Bears have continued to lose and the Giants have continued to lose. Now we face the New York Jets, and that's a little bit different. And it's different to me because of the defense. And like you said, Quentin Williams, really would love to hear if he is in. If he is in and locking down that middle, man, I don't love that. Like, regardless, I think this is going to be a very close game. I wonder do you know what the total is in this game by chance?
Yeah, so the total is 44.5.
Okay, that's what I thought in my head. I think I'd go under. I really think I'd go under that. I don't think this is one of those spots where the Detroit Lions come out and are scorching on offense. I can't see this Jets team coming out and being scorching on offense. We don't exactly even know who the quarterback is going to be at this point in time, after last week's hit.
So some important context, too, for this game. It opened at 47.5, the total, and it's dropped all the way down to 44.5.
Really?
So it seems like the market at the very bare minimum is already agreeing with what you with where your head was at initially. Yes, the 47.5 open, 44.5.
That is so high. I wish I saw that. Dang, dude. I did not know that. But yeah, we don't know if Mike White is going. Dude, if Zach Wilson starts, then
it's a whole other ball. Yeah, if Zach Wilson starts, you couldn't pay me to put your own money on the New York Jets.
No chance. So obviously, you guys know, when we talk about this stuff, you need to monitor this stuff up until Sunday, up until kickoff, even sometimes, because we are recording on Thursdays. We're doing the best we can to give the best angles and odds with the information we have available. And as you know, information changes every day, every hour, every minute sometimes. So, and there's no way I am backing Zach Wilson. There's absolutely no way I would do it. I would much rather back even Joe Flacco. It's Mike White or it's Joe Flacco for me.
That's the thing now. So New York announced that Wilson is the backup. So Wilson has not even dressed for the games the last 2 days, but Wilson is dressing as the number 2 quarterback on the depth chart this week. And Mike White is expected to play, but this is, again, now that we're talking through this, a concern of mine is because if Mike White takes one more big hit, then it goes to Zach Wilson in the second quarter, throw that ticket out, honestly. So I guess that's an angle. I mean, that's what I thought about that Steelers-Dolphins game where, it didn't end up making a difference. And it's hard to you can't really project those kinds of things, right? That's not an angle to really necessarily look at. But no, your point again, that if Zach Wilson is getting, if you told me right now Zach Wilson was going to play a full 30 minutes of football, just one half of football, I'm not touching this game. But
dude, he's just a spoiled brat. I'm not backing that dude. Come on. I don't, something about him. I don't literally sitting on the the sideline with his hood up like Darth Vader. I'm sure everyone saw that meme.
Yeah.
Dude, just bad vibes. Bad vibes. If you are a teammate, you do not want to go out and play for someone like that. Unless he addressed the locker room, unless he did something to try and fix that situation. I just can't back that. But with that being said, if in fact Mike White does start, Mike White has looked pretty good to me. He really has. I feel like he's made some good throws. Even him taking that hit, dude, that was the hardest possible hit a human can take with it being legal. Literally. But I give him credit. He stood in the pocket. He delivered the football. He got absolutely blasted. But that's what you want from your quarterback. You want your quarterback to stay in the pocket and take that hit. You don't want him to get flustered and start rolling out and not finding open guys. So, and that's what Zach Wilson does. He tries to use his legs too much, and this ain't high school. This ain't college. Everyone's fast in the NFL. So, again, if Mike White does start, I like him in this spot. And part of it is, Jared Goff has been playing unbelievable football. He's been, I think everyone has been just floored with how he's been playing here in Detroit. He has exceeded expectations. He's protected the football and everything like that. But with that being said, and we talk about this all the time, this is the NFL. You can only stay hot for so long in the NFL. things do happen. The worst teams win games. The best quarterbacks throw interceptions. And I just think it's one of those spots where Jared Goff might have an off game. In his career in outdoor fields, he's 29-32 against the spread as well. So not always playing good in outdoor situations, outdoor conditions. And as we know, New York can be a tough outdoor condition. Say it snows, say it's a little rainy, say it's a little windy. I probably side with the Jets here. I really have to, and it's tough for me to say. But with when we do stuff like this, it's years and years of seeing these situations and experience and breaking down these games. And this is one of those spots where I would probably say 60% of the time the Jets win this game.
Yeah, and so you have to give the credit where it's due. Jared Goff's been great. The Lions' offense has been phenomenal. They have a great bunch of weapons. The EPA per play, all those advanced metrics are saying that the Lions' offense is good. Enough said. Mm-hmm. However, going to the defenses that they've played recently, they have not played a defense as tough and physical as the New York Jets have. The New York Jets defense. Vikings, they just beat shitty defense. Jaguars, they just beat shitty pass defense, good run defense, no pass rush. And Jared Goff again. In cold weather, not a great quarterback. And also when his line is not protecting him, he's not good. One of the reasons why it's worked so well in Detroit is obviously the bevy of weapons they have, but also how good their offensive line is protecting Jared Goff. So again, Vikings nothing, Jaguars suck. Bills, close game, okay, played well, didn't win that football game. Giants in MetLife, but in November, literally a month ago, so nowhere near as cold. Lions did a good job. That Giants defense is good in the red zone, but did not lock down, and they were free falling. Then they beat the Bears just by one. They beat the Packers at home in a classic NFC North kind of game. Then they lose to the Dolphins, but they didn't score a point in the second half. So I think just kind of this run of the Lions going, I think they're 5-0 or 6-0 against the spread in their last 6 games or 5 games. Like, crazy. It's got to come crashing down. So instead of seeing this as like, staying on the gravy train, like let's ride the Lions, this is kind of like, all right, let's sell high here, because I spoke to some people who are originators and made their own lines, and some of them said that this line should be Jets -2.5, not even PK. And obviously that's up to people's, perceptions and how they break down the games. But I just want to know the Quinnen Williams news for myself. And again, if this Quinnen Williams is in next week, the Jets are -115. I'm still taking the Jets. If he's out and it goes down to +100, even odds on the Jets, I'm taking the New York Jets this weekend. Another game, though, Saturday game. This is one of your favorite looks of the week. We're talking Vikings Colts in Minnesota right now. The line is sitting at Vikings -4, 4.5. It opened at 5.5, though, which is interesting. Also, this total opened at 46.5 and has crept up to 48.5. But you're looking at a first half angle in this game. Talk to me, why are you liking the Vikings to cover 2.5 points in the first half at home against the Colts?
Yeah, and as you know, and I'm sure as our listeners know, I have not put out a single first half bet on the podcast all season long. So this is obviously something that kind of somewhat stuck out to me. And, it's somewhat situational as well. Like, I think we've all been there, whether it doesn't matter what sport, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, whatever. When you lose and go out and get your ass beat, like the Vikings did in Detroit, they lost 34-23 in a big game where they knew they knew everyone was on the Lions in that game. There was talk about it all week long, and they still didn't come out and produce. And like I was saying, with any sport, when you go out and lose like that, you want to come out like your ass is on fire. You want to come out and you want that first drive to go down the field and end up in a bare minimum a field goal or a touchdown or something along those lines. So when I saw this -2.5, I was actually a little bit surprised, because the Indianapolis Colts are actually the worst team in the entire NFL in terms of first half scoring, putting up 6.2 points per half. Okay, the dead last team throughout the NFL. And as we know, that Indianapolis Colts offensive line is absolutely dreadful. Jonathan Taylor hasn't been running the football as well as he was last year, not even close. And even their weapons, like Michael Pittman Jr. hasn't had the season of last. Matt Ryan is turning the football over like crazy. So you got to expect this Vikings defense to step up on top of that, And then the Minnesota Vikings, on the other hand, averaged 12.3 points for first half. So pretty big differential there, a 6-point differential. And this is a Colts team that's 2-4-1 straight up on the road and 2-5 against the spread to go with it. So, 4.5 to me, it's just one of those numbers where I know to probably the average sports gambler, it seems like a small number, but it's so easy to come in within that 4.5 as a late backdoor cover or something along those lines. So that's kind of why I started looking at that -2.5. The Vikings are better at home. They're 6-1 straight up at home, 4-3 against the spread at home. So again, this is a Vikings team that, yes, they've beaten some very soft opponents. Yes, they have definitely been fortunate at times, but I think this is a good spot for them to come out in front of their home crowd, to bounce back and really come out on fire. I think this Vikings team wants to get that crowd behind them nice and early. They want to hear that horn going and whatever. So because of that, I really do like this -2.5 point spot. This is actually one of my favorite plays on the slate this week. This is an official play for me over at Sports Memo. Already got this one locked in. So yeah, Vikings -2.5. And this is one of those you might want to grab early. If it gets to Sunday and it's a -3, that really sucks. You need that half point. So that's why I'm grabbing this -2.5 now, and I think you should as well.
Yeah, so I had one instance where I looked at the Colts first half and that Dallas game, and they kind of blew it on the Matty Ice. That was the first time I ever looked at a first half. Probably the last time. But to your point, Matt, I just did some fact checking for you. There's only 1 2.5 still available on a widely available sports book. It has gone to 3. So there is a DraftKings is hanging at 2.5.
Grab it from DK.
Yeah, take a look over there, but there are 3s now everywhere for that first.
Hey, and real quick, that's a great point, and that's why you shop, guys. You gotta shop those lines. It's the difference between a win, loss, and push all the time. So great point right there.
And also, a lot of times where books are giving you points to buy, they're putting it at absurd prices. So you got to make sure that, one, you're shopping the best available spread, and then if you want to get the alt and do the buying of the points, you have to make sure you're buying points at a price that has more value than the additional spread, right? Because, for example, you could be buying a +3 to a +3.5, but if you're paying -135 juice and the 3.5 was, and the 3 was even, the 3 even though you would push on a 3 is a better bet than taking the 3.5 because of the way that the math works out with the juice. So again, just some things to keep in mind. As far as this game goes, I don't really have any comments there. So I'll go briefly into my biggest game of the week. Obviously talk about my Commanders hosting the Giants, and I'll keep this again kind of brief because I've already kind of touched on this game. Mm-hmm. But I think the bye actually kind of hurts Washington because, again, all these guys are popped up on the injury report. I think the motivation's kind of gone. 2, Taylor Heineke has had his turnovers due for 1 a game, but he hasn't had a game where he's kind of had multiple turnovers. Like I'm talking like 3+. He's had a couple of 2s with the fumble. I think that is certainly on the table against the Giants. 3, red zone defense. New York very good at it. Washington's red zone offense is abysmal. If they hold Washington to 3, they'll certainly keep themselves into this game. And then last but not least is how the combination of how Daniel Jones plays against the Commanders sometimes. Yes, their weapons on the outside are banged up and hurt. And yes, the Giants' run game is tough. If Leonard Williams is back in this football game, it's going to be huge for New York pressuring Heineke. I think that Washington is actually in for a rough time, and I have the Giants as a live dog, my favorite teaser leg of the week, +10.5. And I am going to be really sad on Sunday night when I watch all of my thoughts that I have about our team losing coming to fruition. And guess what? If Washington wins by 20 and I lose my biggest bet of the year, a 4% play with the Giants +10.5, I don't care. I'll be happy either way. So I don't know. This isn't an emotional hedge. I'm still betting with my head here, not my heart, because there's just no way Washington is 10 points better than the New York Giants. But same situation where, if it does end up working out, I'll be able to sleep decently that night no matter what. But Thursday Night Football, of course, we have some player props. Matt mentioned earlier, he took a look at Ken Walker. You like his over of 48.5 rush yards. Talk to me why you're liking that play.
Yeah, and what's funny is I got a lot of Michigan State buddies who are going to be listening, and they're going to love this because Kenneth Walker is their guy. And this dude, honestly, I think this dude's a breakout star. I think as years go on, he's going to be one of the best running backs in the league. I love what I see from this guy. He's physical. He's fast. He's one of those guys who he has that rare ability to take an average run and make it exceptional. And what does that do too? It gets the crowd behind you, the Seahawks 12th man. I think Kenneth is also someone who feeds off that crowd. And he's another reason why I like the Seahawks tonight, because I think he's such a difference maker. And he's just one of those guys where when he's on the field, you have to understand where he's at all times. And, and I understand when people hear this, Kenneth Walker over 48.5 rushing yards against the San Francisco 49ers, the best rushing defense in all of football. And I sit here and I rave against the 49ers all the time. But like we've talked about, everything is situational. Everything is situational. When you need a win, your offensive line is going to push that much harder. Your coach is going to push you that much more. You're going to feed off that momentum from the crowd, from big plays, things like that much more. And when looking at the San Francisco 49ers team, going back to how they play on the road, they're actually very different from home and away. At home, the San Francisco 49ers actually give up 60 rushing yards per game, which is pretty insane. Like 60 rushing yards, in the entire game, that's 15 yards a quarter. Like, come on. So, but when they go away, they're giving up 92.5 yards per game. So adding 30 yards to that, again, a team that has lost to the Atlanta Falcons, a team that has lost to the Broncos, a team that's lost to the Bears. You know what I mean? So no one's raved about the 49ers more than me. But this team is very capable going on the road and losing to subpar teams. And then when you peel the onion a little bit more, I think this is a night the Seahawks need to give the football to Kenneth Walker at least 15 times. They need to have a nice balanced attack. They need to force the San Francisco defense to come up, to understand the run, to trust the run. And then they get the play action going. Then Geno Smith can, open it up a little bit more with guys on the outside like DK and Lockett, like to your point, Eric. And again, with Kenneth Walker this season, when he's gotten 15 carries or more, he's 4 for 4 on hitting 48.5 yards as a rushing prop. I think this is a low number. I think it's almost a little disrespectful. It's so low. And I understand it because that San Francisco front four is, in my eyes, the best in football, or top 3 bare minimum. But again, I love situational spots. This is a situational spot. I think Kenneth Walker goes high over this, 20 yards over this. So I'm taking Kenneth Walker over 48.5 rushing yards tonight. This is for my Michigan State people. Go Blue.
I know he is coming off a little bit of an injury, but I completely agree with you that this line is so mispriced. Like, Ken Walker is such a talented player. All the factors you mentioned, I think 48.5 is a disrespectfully low number too. I think that's a great way to put it. And for my favorite player prop of the night, I'm just looking in a different direction. So obviously, like you mentioned, I like Seattle. I like their outlook tonight. I like them plus the 3.5. I like them potentially to win outright. So one thing that the 49ers, obviously they have one of, if not the best defense in the NFL, but they're still susceptible to the big passing play. Now, considering they're missing so many assets on their defensive line and in their secondary, I think that Geno Smith is going to be able to get some shots down the field. And who else on the Seattle Seahawks team to catch one of those balls than Tyler Lockett? I think 22.5 yards for longest reception is so incredibly low, considering that, one, he can get a catch of 40 yards on one play himself, and two, he can catch a ball for 15 yards and run for 7 himself as well. So I just think that number is, I don't want to say too low because it's the longest reception, but I do think that the 49ers, again, knowing how they can let up some big plays here and there, that Tyler Lockett catching one deep ball in this matchup, I like my chances with that.
I agree. Yeah. Especially with the play action and stuff. I think the play action is going to open up today. I do.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But that is actually going to do it for the Bettor's Almanac episode 11. We really appreciate everybody, and can't believe we're already in week 15 of this NFL season. But here we are. I want to thank everybody again at Sports Memo, Wager Talk, and PointsBet Sportsbook for sponsoring. If you can follow us on Twitter at Bettor's Almanac, you can follow Matt at Moneyline_Matt and myself at Slime Action. Again, liking the podcast and the YouTube video, commenting on the podcast and the YouTube video, reviewing, downloading the podcast, and subscribing to YouTube are the best ways to help Matt and I grow, give you more free bets, give you more great content, and give you some more winners. So we really appreciate anything and everything you guys do for us. Matt, any closing thoughts?
No, man, great episode today. A little longer than usual, but honestly, I thought the information was absolutely on point. So if you're still here, we greatly appreciate you. We think we've been spitting some straight fire this episode. And last two episodes, I don't even know what our record is, but I think we have like 3 losses. Maybe we're like 20-3 over the past 2 episodes. So I mean, we're absolutely killing it. We greatly appreciate you guys. Tell a friend, share the podcast. The Twitter is gradually growing every single day. So we do appreciate that. When the Twitter grows, it kind of means the growth of the podcast on top of that. So yeah, guys, keep telling people, we're doing everything we can. We put a lot of time and research into this stuff and greatly appreciate your support and tuning in.
Thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day and best of luck with your bets this weekend.
Peace.